onto your butts.
Here we go!
This is Camp Clash. And now for the host of the show, the only builder brave enough to eat mayonnaise on fries in public and still walk like he's made good life choices. He builds like chaos and snacks like a war crime. Buddha 2 Dope.
Warriors, welcome to Camp Clash, the monthly Fallout 76 build competition where talented builders, sleep deprivation, and pure spite collide. I'm B2D, happy to be your guide in the chaos, and this is where people take a simple build theme and somehow turn it into a full-blown psychological episode. Every month, builders enter the arena to prove one thing. Their bad decisions are prettier than yours. This is where creativity fights budget limits, and budget limits usually lose. You'll see floating mansions held together by broken snap points and lies. Merged objects so cursed they probably violate Bethesda's terms of service. And at least one builder every month who says, "I kept it simple," and then unveils a 6-story cathedral built on a cliff using what appears to be witchcraft. This is not a normal contest. This is a battlefield. For decorators, for mad scientists, for people who have spent 4 hours moving a lamp 2 inches and called it progress. And listen, if you've never screamed, "Why won't this roof snap, you bastard," at 2 a.m., are you even building in Fallout? Here, we celebrate masterpieces. We honor chaos, and we absolutely roast architectural crimes when they deserve it. Because in Camp Clash, we don't judge your insanity. We score it. I'm B2D, your guide in the chaos. Now grab your ego, your flamethrower trap, and your emotional support blueprint, and meet our guest judge for April.
And now, our guest judges this month. Oh, we didn't bring in casual builders, cyberpunk masterminds, build sorcerers, current world champions, because apparently being talented wasn't intimidating enough. These are the people who look at Fallout's build engine, a system held together with duct tape and profanity, and somehow turn it into futuristic art. They'll be judging your work. No pressure. Just having world champions evaluating whether your masterpiece is genius or decorative nonsense. This month's guest judges, the Akiras.
Stop everything. Why does it sound like a drunk wedding in a bunker? Who started the polka?
It's my music. I'm promoting my tunes.
Your tunes? You're using a build competition to launch a polka career. This sounds like a mole miner chase scene. Why do I feel like a goose is about to challenge me to taxes?
It has energy, it has rhythm, it has soul.
It has accordion violence. I'm trying to introduce world champion cyberpunk builders, and you've got us sounding like we're storming a cabbage festival. Who is this for? Militant grandfathers?
You have no respect for art.
Art? This sounds like someone weaponized Oktoberfest.
At least I create music. You just yell chaos into a microphone.
And somehow, I still have a better discography than whatever this accordion crime is.
What would you use then?
Something dramatic, something that says architectural war, not village mayor under attack. Why is the music getting louder?
That's the hook.
Roll the showcases before I PvP an accordion.
Let the clash begin.
And somebody disarm the polka.
She has bigger claws than a death claw. Silver Bunny.
All right, survivors, gather up, bring your caps, and maybe don't ask what's in the stew, because we've just rolled up to something special. Welcome to Camp Clash, Silver Bunny. And what an entrance, because Bunny didn't show up with a cabin, didn't show up with a fortress, didn't show up with some gravity-defying UFO made out of bathtubs. No, she brought a Wasteland food truck. And somehow, it works so well, it makes me angry. Because this is one of those ideas where you hear it and think, that sounds fun. Then you see Bunny's version and realize, oh, I've been underachieving my entire life. At first glance, it has everything you want from a roadside Wasteland stop. It feels scrappy, practical, and believable. Like you could actually pull up after fighting off a pack of feral ghouls and order mystery meat on a stick. And honestly, I probably would, because this build has something a lot of camps struggle to pull off. Immersion. Real immersion. This doesn't feel like a staged display. It feels like a place. Like people stop here, eat here, trade here, argue over whether the Brahmin burgers are actually Brahmin. It feels lived in, and in Fallout, that matters. Now let's talk lore friendly, because Bunny absolutely understands the assignment. This doesn't feel like something dropped into the world from another genre. It belongs here. It feels like a location you'd stumble across during a quest, only to spend 20 minutes exploring because every little detail pulls you in. That's the magic. It feels authentic, like Bethesda might have made it if Bethesda had a slightly better eye for decorative food trucks. And I mean that lovingly. Now, if you know Bunny, you already know lighting, decorations, that's her territory. And oh yes, you can see it all over this build. The lighting here isn't just good, it's doing heavy lifting. Warm glows around the serving area, perfect little highlights pulling attention to the right props, subtle shadows adding texture. It feels cozy, which is not a word I use often in a radioactive apocalypse, but here we are, cozy. And that's difficult to achieve in a small, compact build, because with something like a food truck, every inch matters. There's nowhere to hide mistakes, no giant structure to distract you. Every placement is exposed. Every decorative decision is visible, and Bunny handles that beautifully. Which brings me to decorations, because this is where she starts showing off, and I say that with admiration. Every little object feels considered. Nothing feels dumped. Nothing feels random. Props support the story. Details reinforce the theme. And somehow, even the clutter feels elegant. Wasteland, elegant. Which, again, is elegant, held together with duct tape. There are those little touches Bunny is known for. Those details that make you smile because they feel so natural. Like, of course that would be there. Of course that belongs. Of course she thought of that. And that consistency matters because the whole build stays on theme. It never drifts, never loses focus, never has one weird corner where you go, what happened over here? No, it all holds together. And that makes the overall impression incredibly strong because you're not just looking at a food truck, you're looking at a concept executed fully, confidently, creatively, and with a lot of personality. And personality matters because this feels unmistakably Silver Bunny. There's charm in it, there's warmth in it. There's a little bit of playful chaos, and there's craftsmanship underneath all of it. That combination is dangerous in a competition because people remember builds with character, and this has a character in spades. You know what I love most? It doesn't try too hard. It's not screaming for attention. It quietly wins you over. And for a Camp Clash debut, that's one strong opening statement. So let me say it one more time. Welcome to Camp Clash Silver Bunny. If this is what you bring to the table, I'd say the competition just got a little hungrier.
All hail the king of detail, ND.
Alright survivors, I need everyone to suspend disbelief for a moment. Not because we're in Fallout 76 that ship sailed years ago, but because what we're looking at here is apparently a Wasteland amphibious transportation device. Yes, that is the technical term now. I'm using it, we're committed. Because calling this a vehicle feels disrespectful. Calling it a boat is underselling it. Calling it a camp doesn't even begin to cover the madness. This thing looks like it could cross a swamp, survive a rad storm, outrun a super mutant, and somehow still have room for a coffee maker. And naturally, it comes from NigauD, the king of detailing. And let me tell you, the king is absolutely flexing here. Because this is one of those builds where the first reaction is not admiration. The first reaction is confusion. Good confusion. The kind where your brain goes, wait, what am I even looking at? And then 2 seconds later, oh no, this is brilliant. That's how you know you're in trouble. Now let's talk about what NigauD has done here, because there's a lesson hidden in this build, a dangerous lesson. It's the realization that prefabs, those things many people treat like decorative shortcuts, can actually become something extraordinary, and NigauD has embraced that fully, wholeheartedly, almost offensively, because where some builders see a prefab and think, nice, NigauD looks at a prefab and sees raw possibility, structure, framework, opportunity, a blank canvas begging to be overcomplicated. And thank the Wasteland for that, because with just a tiny bit of what I can only describe as ND magic, every prefab in this build shines. And I do mean shines. Pieces that should feel ordinary suddenly feel custom. Familiar structures suddenly feel transformed. They're blended, layered, enhanced, and dressed up with so much detail, they stop feeling like prefabs at all. That takes vision, and probably some minor sorcery. Because honestly, this thing feels assembled by a builder who looked at limitations and took them personally. Now the detailing, the detailing. This is where NigauD becomes NigauD, because every surface has something happening. Every corner rewards attention. Every section has little touches you only notice if you slow down and look. And when I say detail, I don't mean random objects dumped everywhere to create busy energy. I mean intentional detail, purposeful detail, the kind where a pipe feels like it belongs. A crate feels functional. A lamp doesn't just light a space, it tells you something about the space. That's different. That's storytelling through clutter, without becoming cluttered, which is somehow a superpower. And the amazing part? Despite all this detail, it never feels overworked. That is so hard to do. Because with builds like this, one extra prop can push you straight into scrapyard soup. But no, it stays readable. It stays elegant. Well, Wasteland elegant. Which is basically elegant, but held together by bolts. And let's talk about the amphibious madness itself, because I love how this build commits to the idea. It doesn't wink at the concept, it doesn't suggest transportation. It says this absolutely moves across land and water, and if you doubt it, that sounds like a you problem. That confidence sells everything. You start believing this ridiculous machine has history. So overall, a wildly creative Wasteland amphibious transportation device. Brilliant use of prefabs elevated through craftsmanship, insane detailing, immersion for days, and just enough ND magic to make the whole thing feel like it rolled straight out of some Lost Fallout concept art. This is a flex, a very detailed, very stylish flex, and honestly, the king of detailing has earned the crown.
Behold Scrap 4 Caps by Dudebrah.
Alright survivors, pull over your rusted shopping carts and check your pockets for caps, because we've just rolled into something special. This is Dudebrah's build. And let me tell you right now, this isn't just a camp. This is a full-blown Wasteland business model. Because what Dudebrah has created here feels like a scrappy junkyard where you can pay for your spare parts, and somehow I believe it. I genuinely believe if I walked in asking for a carburetor, someone would point me toward aisle 3 next to the suspiciously irradiated tires. At first glance, it has that beautiful, rough around the edges junkyard energy. Scrap everywhere, parts stacked, tools scattered, machinery that may or may not still work. It feels chaotic in the way a real Wasteland trading post should feel chaotic. Like survivors have been collecting, bartering, welding, and arguing here for years. And that's the magic. This isn't random clutter. This is controlled scrappiness, which is much harder than people think because junk-themed builds can go very wrong fast. One extra crate and suddenly you're not running a salvage yard anymore. You're living inside a landfill. But Dudebrah avoids that trap completely. Every pile, every prop, every stack of parts feels placed with purpose. And that's where the immersion kicks in. Because this place feels alive, it feels operational. Like people actually work here. You can imagine scavengers rolling in with busted power armor pieces, someone haggling over a fan motor, somebody yelling, "No refunds on irradiated generators." It tells a story, and that story feels believable. And honestly, believable in Fallout is harder than it sounds. Because we've all seen camps where someone throws down 12 random objects and calls it post-apocalyptic realism. No, this is realism. This is atmosphere. This feels earned. Now, can we talk about the lighting? Because, oh boy, the lighting here is doing serious work. It doesn't just illuminate, it creates mood. Warm industrial glows in the right corners, harsh practical light where it makes sense. Subtle shadows that make all that scrap feel layered and textured. It makes the whole place breathe. And lighting in a scrappy build is dangerous. Too much and it looks like a carnival. Too little and it becomes a dark pile of confusion. But Dudebrah threads that needle perfectly. It highlights the details without screaming for attention. It supports the story. It sells the illusion, and then item placement. This is where I realized we're dealing with real talent, because item placement reveals everything about a builder. Dudebrah clearly understands it. Every item has purpose. Every surface feels considered. Things feel naturally scattered, but never sloppy. That's a very hard trick to pull off. Making something look accidental while it's actually deeply deliberate. That takes skill. That takes instinct. That takes, and I say this reluctantly, talent. And yes, I use the word talent because frankly, at some point, you have to call it what it is. This isn't someone fumbling their way into a decent junkyard aesthetic. This is someone who knows exactly what they're doing. The layout works, the theme holds together, the details reward you the longer you look. You keep spotting little things, a tucked away prop, a perfect little scene, a clever bit of visual storytelling, and every one of those moments adds to the overall impression. And what I love most, it doesn't feel over-designed. It still feels raw. It still feels scrappy. It still feels like it belongs in the Wasteland. And for a first appearance, that's one hell of an entrance. So let me say it properly. Welcome to Camp Clash Dudebrah. If this is what you show up with on arrival, I'd say the rest of the competition has every reason to be nervous.
Let's go mining for compliments with Slog the Frog.
Alright survivors, grab your hard hats, ignore the radiation levels, and try not to breathe too deeply because we're heading underground. Or at least into something that feels underground. Because Slog has built an ultra-sight mine. And let me tell you right now, you know exactly what it is the moment you see it. There's no confusion, no standing there going, wait, is this a warehouse, a bunker, a weirdly aggressive basement? No, this thing hits you immediately. Mine, ultrasight, mine. Message received. And that's important because overall impression matters. First contact matters. In Camp Clash, some builds slowly reveal themselves over time. This one, it punches you in the face with theme right out of the gate. And honestly, I respect that because the first impression here hits hard. You walk in and instantly get that industrial, dangerous, I probably need safety gear energy, and that's exactly what you want. It feels rugged, it feels functional, it feels like people are actually extracting something valuable here, probably while violating 17 workplace regulations. And the more you look, the better it gets, because once you move past that strong opening impression, you start noticing the thing that makes this build work. It functions, or at least it feels like it functions, and that's huge, because this doesn't just look like a mine, it behaves like one. You can read the spaces, you understand the purpose of the layout, you can see where materials move, where workers would operate, where equipment would be staged. It has internal logic, and internal logic is one of those things people underestimate until they see a build that has it. Then suddenly you realize how rare it is. This place feels operational, like if you showed up tomorrow, there'd be someone yelling about a cave-in and demanding more tools. That kind of realism is gold, and the atmosphere helps sell it. There's grit here, weight, density. You feel the industrial pressure of it. You feel the idea that this isn't decoration. This is infrastructure, and that's not easy to achieve with camp pieces. That takes planning, that takes restraint, that takes someone thinking beyond does it look cool and asking would this actually work? And Slog clearly asked that. Now, I do want to mention there are some minor clipping issues here and there. Yes, we see them. A little overlap, a little awkwardness in places. A tiny reminder that even ambitious builds sometimes wrestle the Fallout building system in submission and lose a round or two. And you know what? That's fine, because context matters. When you're attempting something this structural, this layered, this immersive, a little clipping here and there is not a crime. It's a battle scar. And compared to the overall strength of the build, it barely registers. Because the rest of this camp carries so much weight, those little imperfections become background noise. Honestly, I almost like them. Makes it feel even more like an actual mine. Because, let's be honest, if a mine looked too polished, I'd be suspicious. Now let's talk detail. Because there's a lot of thoughtful work happening. Support structures feel believable. Equipment placement makes sense. Decor reinforces the story. Nothing feels randomly dropped. Everything contributes. That consistency matters. It keeps the illusion intact, and once the illusion holds, immersion takes over, and that's where this build wins. You stop evaluating it as a camp and start experiencing it as a location, a place, a piece of the world. And when a camp does that, that's success. Yes, a few minor clipping issues exist, but they do very little to diminish what is otherwise a very convincing and very creative build. And in some strange way, they almost make it feel more authentic. Because perfection isn't always the point, believability is, and this build has plenty of that. So, well done, Slog. You built something ambitious, something immersive, something that feels like it belongs in Fallout. And frankly, I'd mine there.
It's the man, the myth, the legend, TNG.
Ladies and gentlemen, brace yourselves, because against all odds, against reason, and possibly against several building regulations, the man, the myth, the nuisance, TNG is back. Yes, that TNG. And this time, oh how the tables have turned. Because for once, I'm on the judging end. That's right. The hunted has become the hunter. The heckled has become the heckler. And honestly, I've been waiting for this moment. Now, when I first heard TNG built a scrappy boat, I thought, of course he did. Naturally, what else would the man build? A grounded, sensible cabin? A tasteful bungalow? No, we get a floating rust bucket held together by determination and tetanus. Very on brand. But then I actually looked at it and I had to stop talking for a second, which, as many of you know, is rare, because this is good, like annoyingly good. At first glance, it has that rugged, improvised Wasteland charm. It looks pieced together by survivors who had no business becoming shipwrights, but somehow pulled it off anyway. Scrap walls, patch sections, salvage materials, everything has that authentic, we built this from garbage and desperation feel. But here's the trick, it never crosses into clutter. And that's hard, very hard, because scrappy builds can go wrong fast. One extra crate and suddenly it looks like a junk pile exploded, one too many props and it turns into a flea market with stairs. But TNG somehow walks that line perfectly. It's scrappy, but controlled, messy, but believable, chaotic, but organized, which frankly feels unnatural and possibly suspicious. And what really sells it is the storytelling. This isn't just a boat sitting there looking pretty. This feels lived in. That's the word. Lived in. You can almost see the Wastelanders who made this their home. You can imagine someone cooking over a rusty stove, another repairing gear on deck. It feels inhabited, it feels used, it feels real. And in a game full of camps that sometimes look like showrooms, that kind of immersion is gold, because immersion is the driving force here. This camp doesn't scream, "Look what I built." It quietly pulls you into its world and says, "Come aboard." But watch that loose plank. And honestly, that's one of the hardest things to pull off. Anyone can place decorations, but making a camp feel like it has a history, that takes instinct, that takes restraint. The man hasn't lost his flair. Not even slightly, if anything, he's sharpened it. The layout has purpose, the placement feels thoughtful. Every detail contributes to the illusion. And yes, I hate admitting this, but some of these little touches are brilliant. There, I said it. Let the record show I was forced. And let's talk structure, because this boat somehow feels stable while looking like it was assembled during a storm, which is an achievement. It has layers, it has silhouette, it has visual rhythm. You can walk around it and keep discovering new details without ever feeling overwhelmed. That balance is not accidental. That's craft. And here's what surprised me most. The camp has personality, real personality. It feels unmistakably TNG. You could remove the name, drop me into this build blindfolded, and after 2 minutes I'd go, "Yep, this has nuisance energy." Because it has charm, it has humor, it doesn't take itself too seriously, but the quality absolutely does. And that combination is dangerous in a competition, because people remember camps that make them feel something, and this one does. It makes you believe a bunch of Wastelanders could actually be surviving on this scrappy floating home, patching hull plates while arguing over canned beans. So overall, TNG has delivered a scrappy boat that feels authentic, immersive, detailed, and deeply original without ever becoming cluttered. A difficult balance, executed with confidence, and perhaps most annoyingly of all, executed very well. So yes, the man, the myth, the nuisance still has it. After all this time, your building flair clearly hasn't gone anywhere. And as much as it pains me to admit it from the judging chair, this is outstanding work. Now don't let it go to your head.
Remember these builders because they rock. Blow it up, Baza. Atomic pixel dust. Goldfinger. One past 5. Alex P.
Well, survivors, there you have it. Another round of Camp Clash where logic was ignored, budgets were abused, and somehow architecture survived. We've seen airships that may be holding reality together, junkyards selling spare parts with suspicious warranties, food trucks probably violating every health code in Appalachia, ultra-site mines with better infrastructure than most settlements, and somehow every single one made a case for the win. And that's the problem, because now someone has to choose, which, frankly, feels cruel. Like asking me to pick a favorite mutation. Some builds impressed with creativity, some hit hard with immersion, some made us question physics, others made us question the mental stability of the builders, respectfully, but all of them brought something worth remembering. So hold on to your scrap, steady your nerves, because after all this chaos, the winner of Camp Clash is about to be revealed.
This month's Camp Clash is Slog the Frog.
Well, survivors, that brings this episode of Camp Clash to a close. We've toured incredible builds, argued with physics, admired genius, and witnessed enough creative madness to keep the Wasteland inspired for weeks. To every builder who entered, seriously well done. You've made this competition what it is, a place where talent, chaos, and the occasional structural crime can all be celebrated equally. To our winner, congratulations. To everyone else, there's always next month and plenty of time to overthink your lighting placements. But before we go, let me break the fourth wall for a second. Yes, you watching right now got a little announcement. The Akiras will be joining the Dope Camp for an exciting new show. That's right, something new is coming. And trust me, if you like camp building chaos and the kind of ideas that probably shouldn't work but somehow do, you're going to want to see this. Curious what it is? Good, stay curious. Keep an eye on the Discord for more. Until next time, survivors, keep building, keep surviving, and try not to tear apart the space-time continuum with your camp.
If you had fun, don't forget to join our Discord. Link is in the description, so you can be part of the next competition. Like the video, subscribe to the channel, and hit that notification bell so you don't miss future events, builds, and whatever chaos we decide to host next.